All right, on this episode of Locked On Avalanche, we got some news on some injured Avs. Not the best news. We will discuss. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche, Instagram, and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And make sure you're following us over on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And sign up for our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get all your opinions and thoughts on everything Avs, which we share on this very podcast, which is injury-riddled today, it seems like, Kyle. We got a lot of info over the weekend on some Colorado Avalanche players dealing with injuries in different levels, really. So if you're watching on YouTube, those are the three guys we'll mainly be talking about. I'm sure, like we normally do, get into like different areas and stuff like that. But we got Gabe Landeskog, we got Logan O'Connor, and we got Nikolai Kovalenko, who we'll start with Landeskog because that's been the longest one so far. And you had Jared Bednar stating, kind of giving you a little bit of a timeline. We didn't really, I don't want to say we've never gotten a timeline. We have. They've kind of told us from his last surgery that it's 12 to 16 months. That's what they said then, as soon as he got this. And the 12-month mark is in May, around May 10th. And that's what kind of, we're all sitting here thinking, like, hoping Landeskog could be back for round one of the playoffs, game one of the playoffs. Do the old Vegas LTIR, and he's been on LTIR for 2 years. But game one, round one, he's ready to go. Doesn't sound like that because Jared Bednar said they have stuck to this 12-month thing this entire time. And in no way, shape, or form is he going to return before that. And when he was asked, so you're looking in like the May range, he kind of was like, yeah, he goes, I would say that's a good timeline. So at the earliest, we're looking early May, and that is no guarantee. Get your thoughts and we'll continue on this.
Okay, with Bednar's comments, there are two things I'd like to talk about. One, he talked about there's no chance that Landeskog plays this season. Was that a question?
You mean the regular season you're talking about?
Yes, the regular season. Did you feel like he was coming back at any point in the regular season?
No.
Yeah, I didn't. Okay, I didn't either. I was just like, okay, cool, that's understood. Two, at this point, it'll be 2 years in his return. And maybe the second round of the playoffs?
Okay.
Why?
That's, and you know what, Kyle, like that's where I've been this entire time. Is like, I know, they had been asking, even Chris McFarland early in like November, he was like, well, we hope. He's never said like, yes, it's going to happen, the playoffs. We hope. And that was back in November. You had a long way to go. Maybe it's one of those things where the rehab goes better than you thought it did, and you can bump that timeline up a month or so. But things have been going along the timeline that I feel like the Avalanche expected it to. And I'm with you. I was thinking, like, if he's not back for the first round of the playoffs, if the earliest you now can get him back is the second round, in my opinion, like in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, what is the point?
Exactly.
What is the point to bring him back? A guy who has not played in 2 years, that you don't know, like very, very, I don't want to say controversial, but just a surgery that does not happen a lot and does not have a good track record of athletes returning from. You're going to bring him back in the second round of the playoffs and expect him to be the Gabe Landeskog of old? No. Why not? You have what, 5 more years of this contract? Like, this is not a guy who has like another year left on a contract, or maybe it's like a 1 more year to play. You have 5 more years of him. Give him the rest of the year, the rest of the offseason, and then you have a much better idea of when he comes back. If he comes back game 1 of next year, he's tested a little bit more. I just feel like we're on a timeline where if he comes back, it's like it's still too soon for me, because you're testing that thing in the playoffs. I don't like that. I really don't like it.
And that's a great point. Like it's Gabriel Landeskog. Like I get everybody's love for the captain. I understand everything he does, especially on the power play, what he does on the bench, but
Mhm.
what he offers will be just as potent and beneficial in the regular season next year. And once you're in the playoffs, there's not a lot of room for mistakes. And if something goes wrong with Landeskog in the playoffs, that can derail the emotions of a playoff pushing team. And it's push, push, push. There's a different gear you hit in the playoffs, and you're going to ask somebody who hasn't played the game of hockey in 2 years to hit that playoff gear in your first game
Right.
back. I
Right.
don't see that making a lot of sense. Like I understand what he is and what he means to this team, but I also understand what the playoffs are and where you need to be, and I just don't see where the two meet.
I just feel like you have more time to test it when you have clearly more time, and the
Yep.
offseason provides you that, rather than just, we've seen him skating, and he's doing this gingerly skating around type of skating. And then so in a month and a half, or a little over a month, we're expecting him to go from where he is now to full bore playoff hockey. No, like I'm just more comfortable with that. Then don't do anything, and you have an extra 3 or 4 months to continue to build up the strength in that knee, and continue to do cuts, and kind of practice and build up to, you're even more healthier. Because what happens, like, say he does get through the playoffs, but he tweaked it a little bit in the playoffs. You're right back to square one again, and here we go again. So I'm with you. I think we're in agreement. Just let him rest as long as possible. You don't need him right now.
Because if the playoffs, if the season ended today, the playoffs, their matchup would be Winnipeg. And Gabe Landeskog against that Winnipeg D, it doesn't sound wonderful. And they're also pushing in playoff mode. And like you said, you have 5 years of this Landeskog deal. Why torpedo it now? Why
Mhm.
not really bank on possibly getting something in this year 3? Really seeing what you could, where you're not
Yeah.
having to push as hard. Because I just don't want that to be the reason this team lost their heart in the playoffs, watching their captain go down again.
Yeah.
And that taking all the emotion of a push, you're doing better, you made it to the second round, you're improving from where you were last year, and then you watch Landeskog go down again because he took just a normal turn, and that was enough to tweak it again. You lost him, and it all falls apart from there. You don't want that to be the case around Landeskog, because he's the captain. You want to see him in more of a noble position instead of
Right.
experimental.
A couple people from subtext weighing in. Is from Easton, who, by the way, is our our resident GM.
Yep.
He called the Sean Walker trade out of anything else, but he also said Middlestat too. He had Middlestat in a list of guys, but he wanted Middlestat bad. So good job, Easton.
Or should I say Chris McFarland?
Chris McEaston. He says, as much as I would want Landy to join this team for a run, I would feel so bad if he tried to come back this season and he is done for good. There's no guarantee he ever is able to play again. I would feel better if he took longer. Exactly what we're saying. Yeah. What I at this stage, we're happy with the moves that they made in the trade deadline. If he's 100% healthy, he only helps this team, but you just don't know that right now. This is not a normal injury that you're coming back from. So,
and this isn't Zach Parise. He's not putting in that crazy amount of work ethic. He's still trying to get back to normal hockey levels. Zach Parise at 39 was still working out. He was still in the gym, still hockey practice. Gabe Landeskog is still trying to get back to that level, and that's 2 years, and Parise was 1 year.
Amy says, if we get Gabe back at any point this year or next year, I'll be thrilled. But the reality is I don't have much hope that we will see him playing again. Maybe I'm just managing my own expectations. I'm sure she's always felt like that, but I'm seeing a lot of people commenting because they heard this news that like May is the time frame now of kind of people thinking like that's it, can never play again. Again, like I go back to, I think this has always been the timeline. And when teams throw out there, oh, we hope we get him back for the beginning of the playoffs, people latch on to that. And then when that doesn't happen, it's like, oh, now it's May. Might as well be next year. Might as well be he'll never play again. Might as well retire his number. So I don't want. We're not going to that extreme. It's just the best case scenario is not happening. So it doesn't mean just because it's back in May now. It's I'm not saying that's what Amy's saying at all. Like I think I get the vibe that she's felt like you did. Like you've said all along, I'm really worried about his entire career.
I've been in the camp of he has played his last game as a member of the Avalanche, and this is another timeline question that we're answering. And again, look behind you. How long has it been since we won the cup? That was the last time you've seen your captain.
Yeah. And this is Madam Battleaxe says, oh, Captain, my Captain Landeskog, I don't care when you come back, just come back to us. We miss you and we need you. He's beloved. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like we all want him back as soon as humanly possible. Is it this season?
Better not be.
Yeah. We shall see. That is not the only news we got for injured Avalanche players. Logan O'Connor, and this one we know is not going to be coming back for the remainder of the season or the playoffs. They shut that one down pretty quick. Why? We'll discuss that coming up next. All right, let's hear from Game Time, because you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying new tickets to your next big event, because Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Some of the things that we love about the Game Time experience, they have flash deals and zone deals, which are pretty sweet. I've looked into those a couple times. Really good pricing if you can catch these flash deals and zone deals at the right time. And the view from your seats, kind of, I talk about that all the time. Beautiful how they seamlessly integrated it into the app. It's just like scrolling through social media. It's perfect view of your seats every time. It's awesome. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right. Coach Bednar also discussed Logan O'Connor, who has been out for a little while. And we got the old LBI, the lower body injury, as to the reason. And now we know it's a hip. And he is having surgery on that hip and will not return for the rest of the year. This one, just when you saw that, it was just one of those where you just went, oh, really? For multiple reasons. One, he's so important to the team. Like he's their best penalty, one of their best penalty killers, if not their best penalty killer. He's such a fan favorite. Like everybody loves Logan O'Connor. He works his butt off. He just, it's 110% every time he's out on the ice. And on top of all that, he was having the best year of his career and gets wiped away with an injury. Apparently he was fighting this all season, which, man, if he's fighting that all season, he's putting up those numbers, 100% healthy Logan O'Connor during this year would have been equally as scary, doubly scary.
Yeah, because he's got 25 points, so he has as many points as it is his jersey number, which is there's a lot of potential, especially with what you saw in LOC. But the thing that really just made like the pit of my stomach just drop, hearing it's a hip. It's not good. Hips, once
They
you
don't lie.
sustain, once you ain't that the truth? But once you sustain an injury to your hips, that's usually, it's hard to come back from. Like,
They're important in all sports, but especially hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, and they nag, and you can hear like he's been trying to come back from that. If this is what you have to look forward to next year, is it going to be a nagging problem? Is the 25 points that he had this year, and he's been looking incredible. He's been a wonderful story in this 23-24 Avalanche squad. He's been finally hitting his potential. You don't want this to be it. And for this year, it is. So that's an absence, and a little bit more of the moves they made at the deadline make a little bit more sense when they know this. In hindsight, the picture looks a little bit like even more brilliant than it was.
Yeah, they knew this was coming because you saw the second day of deals for them. And we were all wondering, like, man, they got a lot of forwards now. Like, there's not enough space to go around.
Duhaime?
Yeah. So, Duhaime and the Trinan signing or trade. Okay, the picture is becoming a little bit more clear. But yeah, man, like he's just a likable guy, and you feel horrible for him because, and especially if they go on and win this whole thing, his name gets engraved on it and all that stuff. But he's one of those guys where it's like he put in the work all year long. It would have got to that point. Not to say that it takes away, but if that is how the season ends, it's still as important to him. And he put in the time with this team, but it's just, you want guys like that to experience all of it. And let's just talk about the playoffs in general. Like, clearly he's an important part of it. So yeah, he's an important part for the regular season. When the playoffs come around, those are guys that you lean on because now he's got the experience in the playoffs. His confidence is a mile high just because he had a banner year for himself. And now the guys that are replacing him are guys that you brought in through trade who you like, but you're just not. Is it going to work? That is, the jury's still out on that. Had a pretty decent game, the first game against Minnesota. Nothing to write home about, but it's a loss. It is a loss for the Avs. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
And I mean, it has to speak for his confidence a little bit that you survived the offseason where you lost guys like JT Compher and Evan Rodriguez. Like, you're still a member of this squad. They believe in you, and you pay that belief back with having a career year. And the only thing that let you down was your hip. This is where you come back next year on fire, ready to jump over this season. But his absence will be felt on every penalty kill because he's not going to come out there and make that shorthanded, make you like hold your breath because, LOC has the puck.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily their best, like I said, one of if not their best. But what made him so dangerous on the penalty kill was the possibility of him being shot out of a cannon and going in the other direction and netting a shorthanded goal. We saw it 3 games in a row where he got shorthanded goals. Like, what they brought it, like the penalty kill has a different look now of what they brought in because, number one, he's not there, and you don't have that really. And the guys you brought in are more of the positional, more meat on the bone type of guys than Logan O'Connor. So the penalty kill looks different now than it did a week ago or however long ago before he was playing, which is not a bad thing. It's just you don't have that, the striking the fear in the other team. Like, if we screw up here, he's got the puck and he's gone, and we're not going to catch up to him. So it's a different style of play now that they have on the penalty kill. Go ahead.
And LOC, who would have thought that? Like, we've been at this for a while, Chris. Like, who would have thought that LOC would have those keys that are going to be a huge absence to? I mean, that's a top 10 penalty kill, and we're going to be talking about his absence on the penalty kill, how it's going to look different, and his positioning and hockey IQ in those positions. Like, he just pounced on the puck. It was never like a move or two. He knew where passes were going to go. He would intercept, make a really good hands move to put the goal away. Like he was thinking so much quicker. And for him to be an absence, we're going to feel it in the playoffs. LOC, you will be missed.
Yeah. Going back to subtext, Amy says, I was disappointed to hear LSC news. He's so valuable on the penalty kill. I really like how he's been contributing this year. Hope he makes a full recovery for next year. There you go. Hip injuries can be really tough. So she knows. She's in agreement with you. This is, I'll go back to Madam Battleaxe. I'm so sad for LOC. I hope he'll be okay. Working in surgery, I know how the recovery for hip surgery can be very tricky. Get well soon. So with that said, this makes sense for the trades and moves that McFarland is doing. Just hope he realizes LOC is coming back and don't even think of trading him. Yeah. I don't think we're there yet. He's got one more year left on his contract, and it's a very team-friendly deal of like $1 million. So I can't imagine that'll happen, but I get her thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to school when I was 18 to be a nurse. And I remember just vividly anatomy and physiology. They talked about once you have a hip injury, you're going to be dealing with that for the rest of your life. So when I heard that for LOC, that's like the one thing I remember from going, I didn't finish that, going to be a nurse, but that is the one thing I remember. So when I heard this about LOC, you just knew. I mean, that's kind of what Francouz is dealing with. He's dealing with the hip and the knees, so it's something you always hold on to.
And didn't Francouz have both hips, if I remember correctly? Yeah, I think it was both hips. So Madam Battleaxe, like if you want to respond in subtext, give a little bit more detail on hip surgeries and why they are so difficult to come back from. We'll get some firsthand experience from you're on the front lines. If she's in surgery, send that in and we'll kind of share that too. Heather, seems like McFarland knew about LOC with some of the decisions he made with the trade deadline, but he doesn't seem to like he knew about Landy. Maybe he should have pulled what VGK did with Mark Stone. If you're following me on Twitter, I am with the vast majority of people, which is like everybody who's not a Vegas fan, who feels just like Vegas is just doing some shady stuff here. We'll see when the playoffs start, and if Stone happens to return again, we'll cover that when it happens. But just know I'm in the camp of the majority of hockey fans outside of Vegas who feel like what they're doing is just rather intentional, if you ask me. I'm not saying these guys aren't hurt, but another time, Kyle. Just don't get me going on this right now, please. But to her point, why didn't the Avs do that? Like, I think they did, not to the extent Vegas does, like, going and get all-stars, but they made moves knowing that he was not going to be there. I think that was the idea. And that's why you saw those last few moves. Are they game-breaking moves? No, but Logan O'Connor is not that. Like, he's a depth guy. So you're going to have to bring in depth guys to replace him. You're not going to get Tomas Hertl for Logan O'Connor type of deal. But I get what she's saying, but stuff like that can't happen.
To Heather's point, who's to say the Avalanche are not? Just because they're not being gaudy and flaunting it like Vegas is, like Vegas has to get real creative with how they handle their roster and how they handle it at the end of the year. They're a running joke. But if you look at the Avalanche roster, top to bottom, who's to say they're not also playing around with LTIR and they know exactly what they're doing?
Well, I mean, they do. I mean, but the Avalanche LTIR is more like cut and dry. You like the only guys on it are Landeskog and Francouz. And we know what's going on with Landeskog, and we know that Francouz ain't coming back. So there's less of a question of what the Avalanche are doing it, where Vegas gives, and I put it up on Twitter, like the Avalanche tell you, we know Landeskog's not coming back till March or May, and Vegas is like, it's impossible to say when Stone is coming back.
Yeah.
His injury. So what medical team do you have? What medical staff you have? What his injury, but you don't know when he's going to come back. It's impossible to say when he's coming back. That's garbage. There's timelines for every injury, and they're just saying, "Oh, it's impossible to know." It's not impossible to know because you know when he's coming back, and you're just not saying it because you're going to be in trouble if you say
you
it.
know when you'll give it to them and when they're going to come off. Trust me, I know.
God, they're the most annoying team in sports. All right, there's another one we got to talk about, and that is Kovalenko, who we've all been waiting for, and he's barely still coming, but it's not without some entertainment here. So we will discuss that coming up next. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament, whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. I got to say, man, like next to the Stanley Cup playoffs, is there anything better than March Madness? Like those first 2 rounds are just epic every single year.
I live for it.
I don't. I'm trying to think of with Michigan being just garbage this year. I don't know who like a sleeper team could be, but
Auburn.
there's is it all, what are they going to be? Are they going to be
the Auburn Tigers? They keep getting in their own way, but they are a good pick.
Okay. All right. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets over at FanDuel. All right. I'm getting injured just talking about all these injuries, man. So Kovalenko, we've been waiting for him for a while. He's playing over in Russia in the KHL. And the team that he is on, they lost in the playoffs, which we kind of figured were going to happen because his team was, I don't know how they do the seeding over there. I don't know if it's 1 versus 8. Let's just say that it is. They were the 8 seed and they were going up against the #1 seed. So we were expecting them to lose and they did, but there's like, they were down by 2 goals, I believe. And there was like 2 minutes left or 2 minutes and change left. And he took a weird hit in the neutral zone and he went down and he needed to be helped off the ice. It looked like it was a knee, leg, something in that area. And that was going to be it. Like he just needed to finish 2 more minutes and he's on a plane to Colorado. He still is, but his health is now in question. And those are the ones that, like the LOC one stings. So does this one. The Landeskog one, you can kind of prepare yourself for that because you kind of feel, you've known all along 2 years, hey, it might happen, might not happen. LOC hurts because you're not expecting that. Kovalenko hurts because you were so looking forward to him coming. And 2 minutes left in his career over in the KHL, and he gets hurt.
I was walking around with my children in the mall. I knew Kovalenko would be getting bounced, and he was on his way to Denver. I knew it was coming. And I just checked the score. And I see Twitter X exploding with the news. And I thought it was a joke. I thought everybody was just kind of taking this and being a meme. Like the only way to be ready for the Avalanche is to be injured. No, it's reality. And 2 minutes to go. The little light at the end of the tunnel that everybody was hoping for. We're finally here. We're right here. 2 minutes away. And oh yeah, he's down. Had to be helped off. And it felt like a joke. It felt like a dream. And here we go. The Kovalenko experience off to a rocky start.
Yeah. I guess some things that you heard that it wasn't as bad after the fact as it looked. I think his coach talked about it, but didn't really give a ton of detail. It's just one of those wait and see things right now. Like I don't know when he was expected to make his way to the States. Like, I mean, I think it was relatively quickly. I think they were hoping he'd be here soon. I don't see why it would take long, but he was not a guy when he was drafted, Nikolai Kovalenko, that people really gave much thought to.
Yeah.
But he became a big name in that league. And as the games went on and the years went on, they're like, oh my God, like we have a prospect here. And it's always a crapshoot with the Russian players because it's a different game, bigger ice over there, and sometimes it doesn't translate to NHL. But it was one of the, like, you were just excited because of the possibilities. And hey, maybe get our own Kaprizov here. But you hate seeing that because we're talking about hips. Knees are the same thing. Like, look what Gabe Landeskog is going through.
Yep.
So, God, I hope for a number of reasons, again, you just don't want his career to start off on that foot. But I really hope Nikolai Kovalenko, it's not as bad, and it's just twisted a little bit wrong, and it's nothing that requires surgery or he's going to be out for a long time. You just hope it's something where it's just like, okay, tweaked it a little bit, just maybe needs a few days and he'll be okay. Let's hope for that.
Chris, I while you're talking about Kovalenko, if the second period of that Friday night game against the Minnesota Wild didn't happen, and it didn't take overtime for that Nichushkin walk-off overtime win.
Oh yeah.
If this was like a 7-1 win over the Wild, would we be this worried about Landeskog and or LOC and or Kovalenko? Because Thursday, before that Minnesota Wild game, this team was unbeatable. McFarland was a genius. Look at this team, top to bottom. The Avs are legitimate contenders right now. Look at this team. And then you had that close game on against Minnesota, and everybody's kind of is a little tepid, worried, apprehensive. Like, you want to see, okay, will this work? This is what we thought at the beginning of the season with Ryjo, with Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Tomas Tatar. This was an unbeatable team. This is a stacked team. You had this close game, and everybody kind of steps back. We've been here before. Rinse, wash, repeat. Let's see how this goes. And everybody's looking towards the Calgary game. What does this team look like? If the Avalanche went and took care of business 4-1, 5-1 against Minnesota, you wouldn't be that scared about Kovalenko. You say, oh, we'll get him next year. That'll be fine. LOC, take your time, my friend. You earned it. What a year you've had.
Well, I don't know about that one. But I get the Kovalenko one, yeah.
Yeah, like heal. Everybody go get heal. Look at this great new roster.
Stacked roster.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the Cup parade. But I think that a lot. I think that game on Friday had a lot to do with a lot of the urgency and all of these injury reports.
I don't know about the Kovalenko one because I think people are just excited to get him in an Avalanche uniform and just see what he's got. He's not a savior. You know what I mean? He's not coming over here to save this team at all. So I don't like the way that game went against Minnesota. I think it was just like that's the first game with a lot of new players. And, you pulled out a win, but it should just get better from there. If it was a 6-1, 7-1 game, I think I would have been like, well, it was against Minnesota, who's, they're struggling this year. I'm not putting too much stock into that game right now. I can't because it's just, you had 4 new guys and 1 guy who didn't play in a couple months. So it's going to take a little bit of time. But, for Kovalenko, for me, it was just the excitement of just seeing what he's got.
Yeah.
And, LOC being done for the year, that hurts. Even though, like we keep saying, like, oh, the team probably got better at the trade deadline. They maybe took a minor half step back because Logan O'Connor is not going to be there for the rest of the year. So he's that important to the team. So, but point taken. I know what you're saying, but it's 2 different states of mind revolving around one game. First game post trade deadline. Don't put too much stock into it, even though they won it and not by, a comfortable margin like a lot of people wanted. So we'll see where the next one goes, which is Tuesday night, I believe. Right? Yeah. All right. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. If we have any more news on the Kovalenko thing, we'll obviously mention that. And I think we covered enough injuries for one episode. So nobody else gets hurt for the rest of the year because I don't want to talk about them.
We're done with injuries. Locked on LTIR.
Done with injuries. All right. That's going to wrap it up. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.